Back on the Peter King podcast. So happy to be joined by Christian McCaffrey, who has had quite an opening 2 years in the NFL. So congratulations on what you've done so far, Christian.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
So I do remember when I first met you, I met you at Stanford, and at the end of the conversation, you asked me if I had any sort of advice for you as you went through your career. And I don't think you took my advice, but I do remember telling you, yeah, you don't really need an agent on that first contract. But anyway, you wouldn't be the first one who didn't listen to me. But, so I guess I am looking at what you've done early on in your career. And I'm like everybody else. I look at the tread on the tire of running backs. And I wonder, over the last 4 years, including your last 2 years at Stanford, you have averaged 325 touches a game. And those are not easy touches. Now, sometimes you outrun people, but you also sometimes have to be a little bit of a Mack truck, as you know. So I wonder, as you look at it right now, how do you feel physically? Can you keep up this thing where you're getting upwards of 400 touches in a year?
I think my answer to that would be yes. And I think the reason why, I would say I feel better now than I did, after my junior season at Stanford. And I think the reason is, you start to figure out your routine, taking care of your body. You start getting the right guys to treat you. Our coaches do such a good job taking care of us as well, during times like training camp, during the season. So when football is your life, and your body is your business, and you obviously you're open to way more resources and taking care of yourself. And I try to maximize that daily. So as long as I stay on top of it, I feel great. Hope I continue to feel great.Obviously there's some bumps and bruises here and there, but I think the way the game is changing and the way that technology is changing, and you have different, soft tissue techniques, chiropractic techniques. I think if you can
give me an example of something that you're doing that's fairly new that you really think is helping you physically?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything new. I would say it's just a constant commitment. It's not a Monday to Friday. It's a Sunday to Sunday. I think I probably had, some kind of hands-on, whether it's in the training room or outside, every single day of the year, last year. Somebody, whether it's before training, after training, it's a constant process of taking care of yourself. And even when you feel good, you got to stay ahead of the game and really, it's like a Formula One car, right? You're constantly tuning it up. If there's one screw loose, you got to fix it now. You can't wait, otherwise that's when stuff starts to linger. So I've learned a lot in 2 years. I got a lot of great veterans on the team, guys like Greg, guys like Cam, guys like, Luke, who do such a good job of taking care of themselves. And they kind of, when you see them do that, it's easy as a young guy to come through and start to copy some of the things they do, and then, also do some of your own stuff.
I remember a couple of years ago, I was with, in what I thought was his last year with the Cowboys, Jason Witten, and sort of talking to him about, and I was with him for a day on a Monday while that was sort of his repair day. It was during the season. And he did this thing that I had never seen before, that I'd now heard of it from a few players, is cupping, where, you basically get the suction. And, he had all these little circles all over his back and his legs and everything. But it's like there is no horizon. It's almost always changing. So is there a lot of new and interesting stuff, fairly new, that you do? Or do you find that you have found right now what works for you and you just do that?
Well, I think it's a constant learning process. If we had it all figured out, then, everybody would have the answer. But, not only is it constantly learning, it's constantly trying to figure out what's best for you. Some things might be better for other guys. Some bodies might respond to other bodies. It's the beauty of football is you got so many different shapes and sizes that, in my personal opinion, I think there's nothing better than somebody who knows how to, manually treat you. There's a whole bunch of machines out there that can help assist, but there's nothing like getting a good, somebody who really knows how to adjust or really knows how to do good soft tissue work, and then, all the other stuff are kind of complements to that.
You know what I noticed, like watching you out at practice today? I said to somebody, Christian McCaffrey doesn't look like he treats training camp as camp. It looks like he's playing a game. because you 2 or 3 times you outran guys on the defense, which you might do anyway. But I wonder, do you ever play a play with the ball in your hand, camp, OTAs, anything, where you're not treating it like it's a game?
I hope not. Yeah, I mean,
But do you feel that? Do you feel yourself practicing as hard and playing as hard as you would in a game?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you have to. At this level, I take a lot of pride in practicing how I play. I'm a guy who I love seeing live reps. I love seeing, solid ball being played. And there's nothing better than when you are in a time during training camp when it's early now. I mean, you won't play for another month. So getting these reps now, me being able to see it now full speed and kind of envision myself doing the same thing in the game. I think that's how it translates. You gotta go hard, and I let my coaches dictate when they want me to rest and when not. But if I'm in, it's 100% full speed.
I once asked Adrian Peterson his philosophy the moment the ball got in his hands, and he said, "I run from color." And I said, "You have to explain that." He said, "Well." He was on the Vikings then. He said, "So we're wearing purple. Probably the team that we're playing is wearing white. So I have it in my head that day. Anytime I see a white jersey, I am running in the opposite direction. And I will not be touched by him. That is what I'm determined to avoid." Now, obviously, I do get touched by him. I get floored by him. I get tackled by him. But I start with the philosophy that when I get the ball, as soon as I see somebody in the other jersey, I run away from him. So tell me exactly what your philosophy is when you get the ball in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think he hit it on the head. I think the running back position is such an instinctual position. I think a lot of times people ask me, after you make a good play, what were you thinking? And I really never have an answer because I'm not thinking at all. And I think that's what they call the zone, when you're in the zone. And, I've repped, counter, I've repped power, I've repped outside zone 100 million times in my life. It's the same schemes. I've run it with the same guys for a few months now. And it's, once you get the ball, as soon as you start thinking, that's when you're wrong. So I just kind of let my instincts take over, trust my eyes. And, I think he's right. It's the Bobby Boucher style when he's talking with LT and Waterboy. The guy's got the ball, you go tackle him. It's the same running the ball. Move the ball north and hit the hole, don't think, and just let your instincts take over.
Even though you were drafted 8th and there were these great expectations when you walked in here, I think a lot of people wondered if your game would translate to the NFL from college. In college, you were sort of known as this do-everything guy. You're going to wear down the opposition. You're going to be faster. You're going to be tougher and all that. But everybody here is so much better. Could you really do it in the NFL? Did you ever have any of those doubts from the time you got drafted?
I personally never had any of those doubts, no, and I'm really happy that the Panthers didn't either. And that's all that matters to me. It's the team I'm on, and I know Coach Rivera and trusted me from the time I got drafted. So to me, that's all that mattered. All the other outside voices, man, I just those are talking heads. Let them talk, and then let my play speak for itself.
Why do you think this offense with Norv Turner, which is a very multiple, it's kind of a traditional offense, but it's also very, very multiple. It's going to ask the running back to do a lot. Why is this offense a good fit for you?
Well, I think you look at the history of backs that Coach Turner's coached. All of them have had great success. He's had some of the best O-lines, the best quarterbacks, some of the best receivers, and a lot of that's coaching, a lot of that's playing, and majority of it is the combo. We need to execute when he calls the right play, and at the end of the day, it's moving the ball north, and we have the pieces to do that. It's just a matter of going out and executing. And I know, we've got to just trust our coaches because obviously they've all had success at every single level. So being able to trust them and when it comes to game day, make plays. And it sounds cliche, but that's really what it boils down to: beating the guy in front of you.
You've got a new running backs coach this year in Jake Peets, who he's had a bunch of experiences, but he most recently comes from working with Nick Saban in Alabama. A, what has he been like? B, does he bring a little bit of Alabama here to Carolina?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's the Energizer Bunny, man. Every single meeting he's on, and we love it. You know, he brings the juice. He sets the tone for our room, and you know, we really don't have a seasoned, 9-10 year vet. You know, Cap's going into year 5, and then I'm, going into year 3, and we're the oldest ones in the room. So having him in the room has been a lot of fun. You know, he's a heck of a coach. Obviously, he's been a quarterback coach, so kind of bringing that aspect of the game to our room as well. Really understanding defenses, understanding coverages, understanding fronts, and the way he phrases it, and kind of bringing it to us to understand what the quarterback's seeing has been huge. So it's been great being able to learn from him, and I'm excited for this year with him.
This is a ridiculously oversimplistic question. It almost sounds like a talk show question, but I can't think of any other way to ask it. What's it like to play with Cam Newton? And how do you believe, if at all, he has made you a better player?
Well, it's a lot of fun, first off. Obviously, he is who he is, and he's like that 24/7. For me, I've been very type A my whole life, and I still am. But I came into the league with a chip on my shoulder, a lot to prove, very head down, locked in all the time, and I think that was good for me. But it also set me back a little bit. And playing with Cam is kind of.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Well, I would just say Cam made it more fun, and I was allowed to be loose and have fun and really appreciate the game more, and not be so critical of myself all the time. Obviously I'm still very hard on myself, and I think that's the way it should be. But Cam kind of brought the fun back in football for me, and I'm very thankful for that. Obviously he plays with a lot of energy. He's a heck of a leader. Works his butt off, and for me as a young guy, I didn't know what to expect coming here. When I find out Cam's your quarterback, you really don't know what to expect. But when you meet him and when you start playing with him, you realize that he's a heck of a leader. Obviously, he's a phenom of a talent, and once again, the energy level is consistent every single day, every practice, every game, and he kind of sails the ship. So when he's on, we're on.
You talk about sort of being your own worst critic. Tell me a play, maybe in 2018, that you feel like you messed up. And what did that do to you mentally? And was it hard to sleep? Were you beating yourself up? Take me into your mind when you make a play that doesn't look so great as everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's little things here and there all the time. Nobody's perfect, and guys, I don't think you could ever find somebody that played a perfect game. That's very rare. But I've learned, and one guy who kind of brought this to my attention too was Ryan Khalil. I'd not gotten a whole lot of
center who now is not your center.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I was a rookie, I dropped a pass. We were playing Atlanta, and I was pretty down on myself, and he kind of brought me back up in a harsh way, and I felt like I needed that. So
on the field,
yeah. Just getting little reminders like that, especially as a young player. I mean, this was 2 years ago, but as a young player, the NFL, nobody's perfect, and you have to strive for perfection, but understand that when you make a mistake, you can't dwell on it, and you got to go to the next play mentality. And I think over the years you learn it's okay to be hard on yourself as long as you use it in a positive manner for the next play.
I find, there were 2 seasons last year in the NFL that were kind of record-breaking seasons in this way. Since 2006, when Pro Football Focus came into being, they're the stat nerds who look at every player on every play.
Yeah.
So last year, DeAndre Hopkins, 116 catches, 0 drops. Christian McCaffrey, and I think I'm right, 107 catches, 0 drops. How much pride do you take in playing a season without dropping a football?
Yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in it. If Cam throws me the ball, it's my job to catch it, and I definitely take a lot of pride on it. Obviously, in practice, working on that constantly, being able to do multiple things out of the backfield. I think I definitely pride myself on being a multi-dimensional back, and I think that's a huge part of the game. So that definitely is something I take a lot of pride in.
I wonder, as you watch this game now, last year there were the fewest rushing attempts in the NFL in this century. And I wonder, when you look at football, to the rise of the passing games, the quarterbacks with 700 attempts and all that, and basically the running game being not insignificant, but clearly less important than it has been at other times in football history. What do you think of the evolution of the game right now?
Well, I think over the years, you've seen football, come in trends. And I think right now it's trending to a very fast game. Obviously, it's very pass heavy, but I think the run now more than ever is more important. You see a lot of teams now with backs like, myself or Kamara, or guys who can do a bunch of different things so they don't have to leave the field. And I think the biggest thing for offenses now is they want to create matchup problems. So when you have a back who can run the ball between the tackles, outside the tackles, but also, be another receiver as an outlet, that's huge for teams because, it once again, it just creates a matchup issue. If they bring a safety in to cover you, now you can run the ball. If they keep a linebacker in, now you try to mix in some pass plays to just constantly create, opportunities for your athletes to be in space. So, like you said, I caught 107 balls last year. Not a lot of those were downfield routes. So some of these, you can call them extended handoffs,
right.
Little drop down balls. And those are huge. You get 5 yards on that, it's 2nd and 5. People take that for granted, but if, you average 5 yards of play in the NFL, that's pretty dang good. So I think that's something that obviously gets taken for granted. And, I think the NFL is definitely doing this constantly, but right now I think it's definitely more of a speed game. You see these inside backers now running 4.3s, 4.4s at the combine, and they're going pretty high in the draft because a lot of these teams want these guys to cover, the backs that we just talked about.
Do you, right now, as you sort of look at football, do you think it'll ever go back to an Earl Campbell, or a big back era, Jerome Bettis, or do you think it's going to be like this for a while or maybe forever?
I have no idea. I think in the NFL now, I think you need backs who run like those guys, but also can do both. And those guys back then could do both. It was just the wave of the NFL. Walter Payton was one of the most dynamic backs in the world, and he could do everything. The difference was, guys would call power a lot more. They'd call inside zone a lot more, and that's just the way it was.
With Christian McCaffrey of the Panthers, a couple more. I always ask young players this, especially early in their career, but it's got to be somewhat of an educational culture shock a little bit when football becomes your business and it's 24/7. You don't have the 20-hour rule like you have in college. And I wonder, now that you get to spend basically as much time as you want on football and on studying and everything, can you point to maybe one or two things in this particular off season that you truly studied? Maybe it was another back or another kind of offense, but you studied because you said, I want to be better at X.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a lot that I look into in the offseason. The first thing I do is I go back and look at every single touch I had, every single non-touch I had, and kind of evaluate where, my strengths and weaknesses are. And at the running back position, it's a constant, process of getting better. Obviously you want to get bigger, stronger, faster, quicker, better route runner, better hands, all that stuff. That's not the easy part, but that's the given. And I think understanding the game mentally more and really understanding blocking schemes and how, not just the scheme, but how certain guys play. How does Trey Turner pull versus how does Greg Van Roten pull, and what are their techniques? What are they trying to do on certain plays? So then when you get to the game, you're very familiar with how they do certain things. Looking at defenses, what are some consistencies when they're playing, palms coverage? How am I going to do this on this route? Just, little details like that are you can't learn enough. And that's the beauty of football is it's a constant learning process. So, I definitely do a lot of film study on other teams, how teams play backs that are similar to me, stuff like that.
Have you gotten to know guys like Kamara and guys in the NFL who probably when you watch the game, you look at them and you say, I'm a lot like them?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a big mutual respect for all those guys. I think the running back culture is very small in the NFL, and have a lot of respect for all those guys.
Don't you remember? I'm now remembering when you told me, before you started playing, that you had reached out to Le'Veon Bell, and he was really good to you in terms of looking at you as a player and giving you advice. Is he somebody who you still are in touch with now?
Not as much anymore, no. But I mean, once again, when I'm a sophomore in college, sophomore in college, and someone like that reaches out to you, it definitely means a lot. So I still watch all those guys' films, and definitely take a lot of what they do and try to add it to my game.
He's one of the most interesting running backs I've ever seen, because he pauses.
Very patient, yeah, very patient.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of those guys who he does such a good job setting up his blocks and letting them develop, before the play happens. So a lot you can take from him.
I'll finish on this. So probably that at NBC I work with Chris Sims, and there is a Chris Sims story that you have about your youth that I don't even know that Chris Sims is going to remember, but I hope you can tell it.
Yeah, I don't know if Chris will remember either. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But him and Kyle were good buddies back in the day. Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
And this was when my dad was playing. Obviously, Coach Mike Shanahan, he was coaching at the time. So Kyle was, I think he was, I don't know what he did with the team, but he had some sort of involvement in the team. He was a kid. So him and Chris babysat me one time. I don't remember when it was, but that definitely happened at one point. Now,
did you take advantage of them?
I have no idea. I was so young, I don't remember. But it's funny looking back and just to kind of see where both those guys are now. It's hilarious. Obviously Kyle's done an unbelievable job in his coaching career, but it's funny the dynamic, between both of our trends and where we went. So. But yeah, that's a funny story. Fun fact for everyone.
Fun fact, I was once babysat by Chris Sims and Kyle Shanahan. Hey, listen, Christian, have a great year. Really wish you the best, and you're just really, really fun to watch. You really are. It's fun and it's interesting because, as you said, when you came in the NFL, there were a lot of people who really wondered, how your game would translate, and now they're watching you and saying, translated pretty darn good. So good luck this year.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.